I'm Turk Strawman and Tharanki Ramataraka. Thank you for selecting this video. This will give a brief introduction to Pythagoras and his ideology, his philosophy. Now, before I continue, oh, by the way, this will be, I'll be narrating excerpts from Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages, 1928. The relevant chapter. Pythagoras. And like I said, just excerpts. Before I continue, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, I believe you should go ahead and just pause the video right now and get it done. Activate the notification bell feature. While you're at it, if by the end of this video you found that you liked it, I invite you to give it a thumb up. I also invite you to give it one even if you didn't like it. What's the harm in that? And share the joy of this channel with others. Now, let's move ahead. A little bit of prefacing or prefactory babbling from me about this. Why am I doing this? My channel has to do with consciousness hijacking and perception deception perpetrated against humanity, either by entities, outside forces, whatever, right? Or perpetrated by man against himself. Okay, and that's secondarily. That was secondary. Primarily, the main thrust of this channel is self-mastery, personal involvement, and a movement toward true selfhood. In part as antidotes to those first two things, consciousness hijacking and perception deception. All right, so why am I doing this? Pythagoras. Am I proposing that Pythagoras is an essential component of my program here? No, I'm not. But so here's the thing. There's a lot of interest in Pythagoras. Numerous times over the years, those years involving the history of my Tharanki Ramataraka channels. This one's only been here for about a year, I guess, or less. But I had a prior one called that, and it was on YouTube for, I don't know, 10, 12 years, something like that. And then I took a break. That one no longer exists, that other one. But anyway, during this entire time, on numerous occasions, I have been asked questions about Pythagoreanism. You may also pronounce it Pythagoreanism. I don't know which one I like better. Anyway, or about Pythagoras. His sacred geometry, largely, or what he proposed, is a good diet. Well, I indicated I didn't know much about it. I didn't know much about Pythagoras. Not really a big interest of mine. However, I mean with respect to this channel, however, I do love ancient Greek philosophy. Plato and Aristotle are my big favorites. And if I have to choose one, oh geez, that's a tough choice. Maybe Aristotle. I have a degree in an Ivy League level degree in philosophy. One of my favorite areas of philosophy was always the history of Western philosophy. I mean, I don't have a degree in Oriental philosophy, but I'm quite familiar with it. I mean, probably about as familiar with it as I am a Western. But anyway, with respect to Western philosophy, the history of Western philosophy, my favorite segment of that is the Greeks. All right, so and Pythagoras certainly is one of those. So I do have interest in that regard. All right, so anyway, there is interest in Pythagoras usually when the pedestrian, the everyday person, the average human being, expresses interest in a Greek philosopher. It's not Plato or Aristotle, somebody into a little bit of esoteric thought, let's say. They refer to Pythagoras. And I do know of a couple people who claim to be Pythagoreans. Pythagoreans rolls off the tongue more easily. Well, they say, I'm a Pythagorean. I'm a Pythagorean. They probably don't say it like that, though. I don't know how they would say it. I'm a Pythagorean. If they don't say it smoothly, then I don't know. They might not really be one of those. Maybe one of them should tell me how they say it, how they pronounce it. Okay. Just what I'm going to do here. All right, I'm going to narrate, and as I do it, I'm going to just go fast, because I don't want to make a long production out of this. I mean, a study of Pythagoras is not my goal here. I don't want to make multiple videos, so this might go on at some length, but I'm going to try to keep it short by going fast, okay? But I might throw in some of my own commentary, if I think of anything. I'm not doing, I'm just taking excerpts here and there, maybe just one sentence, and then skipping a few paragraphs, and there are reasons for that. One, I'm not attempting, again, here to, narrate a book or narrate an entire document, with a, like, here I am presenting this book. No, it's not like that. Okay? And number two, the parts I'm omitting are jargon-laden and include astrological symbols, mathematical formulas, things like that. History, places, dates, cities, civilizations, ceremonies, stuff that it's not easy to narrate. Or would require some prior knowledge of, say, geometry, so forth. So those are what I'm leaving out. And the other reason is because I'm just picking what I want here because I can. My channel. My video. Okay. Now, back to just one. I said I might throw in some commentary, some opinions of my own, some observations of my own. Like I said, there is interest in Pythagoras. And, for example, some people say, I'm a Pythagorean. I'm a Pythagorean. So apparently there are some Pythagoreans today. And no doubt there are experts on Pythagoras in universities, in the classics departments or the philosophy departments. Or some colleges and universities have courses of a somewhat of a occult nature. There you might find somebody who's devoted to Pythagoras, and maybe that person would be a Pythagorean. The everyday person who says, I'm a Pythagorean, I'm not referring to anybody specific here. I'm making a general principle statement. This is about Pythagoras. And I might make some commentary about how certain things he says or are attributed to his thought. may be relevant today or relevant to the main thrust of my channel here. I don't know. So this opinion comes along with all of it. All right? I think that probably most people who say I'm a Pythagorean don't know much about Pythagoras. They might know some of his life, biography. They might know that he was into sacred geometry, and that they're of the opinion, well, that's really cool, and so I like that, and it must be a magic thing, and you know, it's really a deep study, and you know, I know a couple things that he said along those lines, and you know, I believe in magic, and I believe in numbers, and I believe in shapes and forms and lines and dots, and I believe that there is a structure, you know. The great builder, the grand architect of the universe must have followed, you know, I think Pythagoras was onto something. I mean, I think he got down into the formulas used by the great architect of the cosmos. My ramen is ready, thank you. And I just named myself Yogi No Ramen yesterday. And now I'm getting served ramen. Yep. Yogi No Ramen. I think if I had an American Indian name, it would be Boat with Holes. All right. Thank you very much, dear.
You're welcome.
Where was I? Oh yeah. I was going off on our spiel here. All right. All of that I just said, and then therefore I'm a Pythagorean. I'm a Pythagorean because I like that, and I believe in that. So that makes me a Pythagorean. Okay, well, I am no judge of what makes a person this or that. Myself, I have played the electric bass since I was 19. Not continuously, like not every day since then. Currently, it's been about a year. I could call myself a musician. I'm pretty good at improvising composition. A lot of them turn out pretty damn cool. They get recorded. I've been in a few bands years ago. Currently, I have no affiliation with anybody else who plays a musical instrument. It's been a long time. Like I said, I haven't even touched my musical instrument for, I don't know, going on a year now, I guess. I have another YouTube channel called Tone Freak Bass Experience. You can have a look at it. You might think it's pretty cool. Especially if you call yourself a Pythagorean. You know, you like that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, Pythagoras is very interested in music. If you're a Pythagorean, then you must be too. And, you know, if you like the idea of sacred geometry, shapes, numbers, and so forth, well, maybe you also like impressions created by sound. That seems to fit, sort of, doesn't it? Well, that's what you'll find in Tone Freak Bass Experience. But the point is, am I a musician? I don't call myself one. If I were to, you know, bone up on my technique, go through the painful experience of re-blustering the tips of my fingers and then getting past that, you know, put a couple of weeks or months, into getting back into the groove, get in a band, write songs with the other guys, play out and make money, then yeah, I could call myself a musician. Similarly, back in the day, in the late 70s in New York City, I called myself a punk rocker. If today I were to pick up my bass and play some punk rock type stuff, maybe even put a band together and do the same thing, and play out and make money, okay, then I'm a musician. But am I a punk rocker? I say no. I say there are no punk rockers now, unless they got going with it. Back then, when punk rock was happening, when punk rock existed, and they haven't stopped yet. You know, the given person or people they're still doing it. Same ones. You know? Like the Dead Boys, the Ramones, whatever, you know, if they're still doing it, okay, then they're punk rockers. Otherwise, what you have today is people who emulate the punk rock music genre with what they do. They play punk rock type stuff, but I wouldn't call them punk rockers. That's past. That's gone. That's gone. So, according to this kind of ideological standard to which I subscribe, of which I am a proponent here, at least for myself, which causes me to not right now say I'm a musician. I'm not. I'm also a trained actor, but am I an actor? Am I a trained actor? I don't think I'm an actor right now. I'm pretty good at the skill, the technique, but I'm not working as an actor. No. Most I do is act like a jerk around the house here, creating characters to make my wife laugh. Does that make me an actor? No. So then I guess I can't say I'm a trained actor. To be a trained actor, you have to be an actor first, right? And then it's a matter of whether you're trained or untrained. But, you know, I went to acting school a long time ago. So, are there any Pythagoreans alive today? I think they all died a long time ago. But I guess that's neither here nor there. The real point is, there are people who are interested in Pythagoras and the Pythagoreanism stuff. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. Here we go. The teachings of Pythagoras indicate that he was thoroughly conversant with the precepts of Oriental and Occidental esotericism. He traveled among the Jews and was instructed by the rabbins concerning the secret traditions of Moses, the lawgiver of Israel. Later, the school of the Essenes was conducted chiefly for the purpose of interpreting the Pythagorean symbols. Pythagoras was initiated into the Egyptian, the Babylonian, and the Chaldean mysteries, and although it is believed by some that he was a disciple of Zoroaster, it is doubtful whether his instructor of that name was the god-man now revered by the Parsis. While accounts of his travels differ, historians agree that he visited many countries and studied at the feet of many masters. After having acquired all which it was possible for him to learn of the Greek philosophers, and to presumably become an initiate in the Eleusinian mysteries, he went to Egypt and after many rebuffs and refusals, finally succeeded in securing initiation into the mysteries of Isis at the hands of the priests of Thebes. Then this intrepid joiner wended his way into Phoenicia and Syria, where the mysteries of Adonis were conferred upon him, and crossing to the valley of the Euphrates, he tarried long enough to become versed in the secret lore of the Chaldeans, who still dwelt in the vicinity of Babylon. The teachings of Pythagoras indicate that he was thoroughly conversant with the precepts of Oriental and Occidental esotericism. Well, now, looks like I pasted that twice. I already said that, didn't I? After having acquired... I did that too. As is so often the case with genius, Pythagoras, by his outspokenness, incurred both political and personal enmity. And among those who came for initiation was one who, because Pythagoras refused to admit him, determined to destroy both the man and his philosophy. By means of false propaganda, this disgruntled person turned the minds of the common people against the philosopher, and without warning, a band of murderers descended upon a little group of buildings where the great teacher and his disciples dwelt. They burned the structures, and they killed Pythagoras. Always some assholes around, aren't there? His surviving disciples attempted to perpetuate his doctrines, but they were persecuted on every hand, and very little remains today as a testimonial to the greatness of this philosopher, Pythagoras. The study of geometry, music, and astronomy were considered essential to a rational understanding of God, man, or nature. No one could accompany Pythagoras as a disciple who was not thoroughly familiar with these three sciences: geometry, music, and astronomy. Many came seeking admission to his school. Each applicant was tested on these three subjects, and if found ignorant, was summarily dismissed. Now that might sound a little bit extreme. Pythagoras, however, was not an extremist. He taught moderation in all things rather than an excess in anything, for he believed that even an excess of virtue was in itself a vice. One of his favorite statements was, "We must avoid with our utmost endeavor, and amputate with fire and sword, and by all other means from the body sickness, from the soul ignorance, from the belly luxury, from a city sedition, from a family discord, and from all things excess." Pythagoras also believed that there was no crime equal to that of anarchy. All men know what they want, but few know what they need. Pythagoras warned his disciples that when they prayed, they should not pray for themselves. That when they asked things of the God, they should not ask things for themselves, because no man knows what is good for him. And it is for this reason undesirable to ask for things which, if obtained, would only prove to be injurious. My note here has it that if you don't know what things are good for yourself, then why pray at all? I mean, if you're supposed to not pray for yourself, but for others, how do you know what's good for them? Huh? You know, that's not addressed here. I don't know what his answer would be. He probably has a good explanation for it. He wasn't a stupid man. It's not addressed. Well, I addressed it now. Moving on, the God, if Pythagoras had a God, the God of Pythagoras was the monad, M-O-N-A-D, or the one that is everything. He described God, the monad, as the supreme mind distributed throughout all parts of the universe, the cause of all things. the intelligence of all things, and the power within all things. And by the way, a note here, the cause of all things, with a capital C, cause, right? That'd be like, some of the other Greeks used the term, the first cause, the primary cause, the essential cause. This means, look, if you do a little mind experiment, which is really just like a mind game, a fruitless endeavor, you want to know, you want to trace back the chain of causes, the causal chain. You want to go backwards, like causal chain, backwards, regression. Okay, we have an effect here, there's the cause. Yeah, well, it was an effect of another cause. And you just keep going back, right? This cause was caused by that cause. These are what are known as proximate causes. Well, how far does it go back? I mean, at some point you have to say, okay, all right, there has to be some cause that caused all of that. Some cause that put the proximate causal chain into motion. Okay, all right, we'll call it the first cause. And then some smart ass can come by and say, well, okay, what caused that? Whoa! He thinks he shot you down. Aha! But if you were in ancient Greek, and you're talking about the cause of all things, with one of those things being the proximate causal chain, we're talking about a causeless cause. Not a cause like the one in the causal chain. A cause that was not itself caused. What its nature would be? How the hell do I know? How would you know? Try to figure it out. We're only familiar, with proximate causation. So, get over it. That's what's being referred to. The cause of all things, the intelligence of all things, and the power within all things. He further declared the motion of God, the monad, to be circular, the body of God to be composed of the substance of light, and the nature of God to be composed of the substance of truth. Pythagoras taught that friendship was the truest and the nearest to perfect of all relationships. So did Epicurus. And he also taught moderation in all things. Which might come as a little surprise to some people who are a little familiar with Epicurus. I mean, have you heard of the type of Greek restaurant called an Epicurean restaurant? Have you heard of an Epicurean dish? Have you heard of an Epicurean delight? Did you know that it is due to Epicurus that garnishings are put on dinner plates, a little sprig of parsley, to make it more pleasant, to make it more appealing. He liked pleasantness. He liked friendship. And he liked moderation in all things. He was a bit of a hedonist. Make things as pleasurable as you can. But don't go overboard, because then the pleasure becomes an annoyance, an addiction, and there's no end to it. It becomes an excess. It becomes an obsession. It's not healthy. Moderation in all things. Declared that in nature there was a friendship of all for all. Of gods for men. Of doctrines one for another. Of the soul for the body. of the rational part for the irrational part, of friendship, of philosophy for its theory, of men for one another, of countrymen for one another, that friendship also existed between strangers, between a man and his wife, his children, his servants. All bonds without friendships were shackles, and there was no virtue in their maintenance. Pythagoras believed that relationships were essentially mental rather than physical, and that a stranger of sympathetic intellect was closer to him than a blood relation whose viewpoint was at variance with his own. Pythagoras defined knowledge as the fruitage of mental accumulation. He believed that it would be obtained in many ways, but principally through observation. Wisdom was the understanding of the source or cause of all things, and this could be secured only by raising the intellect to a point where it intuitively cognized the invisible, manifesting outwardly through the visible, and thus became capable of bringing itself in rapport, the intellect, with the spirit of things, rather than with their forms. The ultimate source that wisdom could cognize was that monad, the mysterious, permanent atom of the Pythagoreans. Pythagoras taught that friendship, how did I copy that and paste that in there twice too? Pythagoras taught that both man and the universe were made in the image of God. That both being made in the same image, the understanding of one predicated the knowledge of the other. Man and the universe. He further taught that there was a constant interplay between the grand man, the universe, and man, being the little universe. Pythagoras believed that all the sidereal bodies were alive. You don't know what sidereal means? Sidereal. Got a dictionary? It's gonna become evident because of the context in which it's used. So let's just keep rolling. Pythagoras believed that all the sidereal bodies were alive and that the forms of the planets and the stars were merely bodies encasing souls, minds, and spirits. In the same manner that the visible human form is but the encasing vehicle for an invisible spiritual organism, which is in reality, that's the conscious individual. Remember? Universe and man made in the same image. Okay? All right. Got it? All right. Pythagoras regarded the planets as magnificent deities, worthy of the adoration and respect of man. All these deities, however, he considered subservient to the one first cause. There you have it, first cause, right? Within whom they all existed temporarily, as mortality exists in the midst of immortality. The famous Pythagorean Y, like the letter Y. Look at that. A Y signified the power of choice, and it was used in the mysteries as emblematic of the forking of the ways. The branch to the right was called divine wisdom, and the one to the left, earthly wisdom. Youth, personified by the candidate, walking the path of life, symbolized by the central stem of the Y, this part down here. There's your Y. This part, youth. Walking the path of life, which is symbolized by the central stem of the Y, reaches the point where the path divides. The neophyte must then choose whether he will take the left-hand path and follow the dictates of his lower nature, enter upon a span of folly and thoughtlessness which will inevitably result in his undoing, or whether he will take the right-hand road and through integrity, industry, and sincerity ultimately regain union with the immortals in the superior spheres. Let's move to the symbolic aphorisms of Pythagoras. Number 1, declining from public ways, walk in unfrequented paths, meaning by this it is understood that those who desire wisdom must seek it in solitude. Number 2, govern your tongue before all other things, following the gods. This aphorism warns man that his words, instead of representing him, misrepresent him. And that when in doubt as to what should be said, then just be silent. Shut your trap. Number 3, the wind blowing, adore the sound. With this, Pythagoras reminds his disciples that the fiat of God is heard in the voice of the elements, and that all things in nature manifest through harmony, rhythm, order, or procedure, the attributes of the deity. Number 4, assist a man in raising a burden, but do not assist him in laying it down. Here the student is instructed to aid the diligent, but never to assist those who seek to evade their responsibilities. On the other hand, that is to encourage indolence, and that's a great sin. Number 5, speak not about Pythagorean concerns without light. Well, this harks back to my opening statement about if you like to identify yourself with the label Pythagorean, if you claim publicly that you're a Pythagorean, then probably you're prepared to talk Pythagorean concerns, because you're opening yourself up for question or instruction, information. Like, oh, tell me about that. Well, if you're a Pythagorean, then you would know to not speak about Pythagorean concerns. And why say you're a Pythagorean today? Because a lot of people don't even know what the word means, unless you're prepared to answer some questions. It says, do not speak about Pythagorean concerns. It doesn't say ever, or under no circumstances. It says, without light. The world is herein warned that it should not attempt to interpret the mysteries of God and the secrets of the sciences without spiritual and intellectual illumination. Well, how about that? Do not attempt to interpret the mysteries of God, the secrets of the sciences. Oh, chemistry, physics. Without spiritual and intellectual illumination. Wow. Oh boy. I wonder how much of that advice is followed these days. Seems to be missing in most corners. Number 6, having departed from your house, turn not back, for the Furies will be your attendants. Pythagoras here warns his followers that any who begin to search for truth, and after having learned part of the mystery, become discouraged and attempt to return again to their former ways of vice and ignorance. Well, they'll suffer exceedingly for that. For it's better to know nothing about divinity than to learn little and then stop without learning all. Yeah. I mean, imagine this, right? Perhaps you know of the folly of going to community college, and you take a bunch of introductory courses, 101s. Introduction to psychology, introduction to anthropology, introduction to sociology. Okay, well, those are the three main social sciences, right? All right, maybe you take introduction to political science. All right, you can group that in there too. Anthropology, sociology, psychology, 101 of each one. So now you have a little breadth in the social sciences. You kind of covered them all. You know? And now you claim to be an expert. No, you don't say you are. No, you wouldn't do that, right? Because everybody knows you're not. But you feel like you're one. You go around privately analyzing people. You're like, I know that guy has depression. You know, I took a course in psychology. Yeah. He's depressed. Classic. It's textbook. Yeah, just look. See what he's doing? See how he's glancing at? See how he holds his head? Look at his posture. And look at the rest of that body language. Yeah. He doesn't eat much. No. And I hear that his wife is complaining because he's not giving it to her lately. I guess he's lost his interest in sex too. Depressed. He's depressed. And by the way, if you ever need to talk, you can come to me. You know, remember, I took a course in psychology. Well, a little bit of information about a subject does not make you an expert, and consider the folly. Consider the downfall that such a person will eventually come to in his or her life. You know, that causes, whatever kind of downfall that is, whatever kind of, I've been a jackass, you know, going around thinking like that, getting other people to think like that about me. I wonder how many people didn't say it, but knew I was being a blowhard, a fake, a phony. I think I'll move to a new city and start over because I don't want anybody to think of me like that. Oh my God. I've been such a fool. You know, that's about the point of a person's life when they stop saying, I took a course in psychology, you know. Yeah, I did. No, I look at that. You know, this guy's depressed over me. They stopped doing that. I would say there's a little bit of suffering involved with that kind of a realization. Things that might happen that bring you to that kind of a realization. But imagine if you get a little bit of introduction, some 101. You know, you join the local mystery school. Now, I'm not talking about community college here, social sciences. I'm talking about the local mystery school down the street, the one without any sign outside, you know? Because it's a mystery school. You go in there and you sign up. You get started. You're a neophyte. And then you quit. Because you're going to go hopping around. Maybe it's not the one you wanted, and if you're all, maybe you're going to be a punk rocker instead. Yeah. It wasn't for you, right? But hey, you've got secret knowledge now, right? You understand the mysteries, though, you know? Imagine the suffering someday from that going on in your mental sphere. Well, you could make some wrong turns that have big consequences that will not arise to your awareness for a long time. Like an alarm ringing someday. You know, a 5-bell alarm, and you said it so long ago that you have no idea how in the world those alarms all started ringing now. None. Number 7. Nourish a cock, but sacrifice it not, for it is sacred to the sun and the moon. Two great lessons are concealed in this aphorism. The first is a warning against the sacrifice of living things to the gods. Because life is sacred and man should not destroy it, even if it's an offering to some, like the deity thing. Now the second great lesson is such that the human body is referred to, the cock here refers to the human body, which is sacred to the sun, or God, the monad, right? And the moon, which is nature. Okay? And it should be guarded and preserved as man's most precious medium of expression. I think I'll have a cigarette. Excuse me. I'm not a Pythagorean. I'm not a holy man. I'm not a saint. I'm a little out of balance. More developed in some ways than in others. I have the good and the bad. Do I have the ugly, though, Allie? Am I ugly?
No.
No, I don't have the ugly. Okay. Well, at least I have that going for me, right? All right. Pythagoras. Wait. Should be guarded and preserved as man's most precious medium of expression. Now, I want to make a little comment about that. Here on my channel, we talk about the true self. True selfhood. It's a little hard. Well, it's a lot of hard for most people to get their heads wrapped around this idea of the true self. What is that? Well, okay, here's not the time and the place. Here's not the place, now's not the time to go into that. I'm just going to say that the physical body, the mental sphere, whatever you want to call it, the mind, the emotional thing, all aspects of the human constitution, one of them being the physical body, that are subject to change, which is pretty much everything, right, that you know of, mostly, are instruments of expression. Instruments to what? Whose instruments? Well, yours. You choose self. As to for expression. This expression to occur, it has to have something to, has to have an instrument through which expression can happen, which involves change. Anything expressed in the expressing is changing, because that's an action. No, right here. The human body should be guarded and preserved as man's most precious medium of expression. Well, Pythagoras also warned his disciples against suicide. So, don't do it, right? Number 8, receive not a swallow in your house. What the heck? This warns the seeker after truth not to allow drifting thoughts to come into his mind, nor shiftless persons to enter into his life. He must ever surround himself with rationally inspired thinkers and with conscientious workers. Number 9, offer not your right hand easily to anybody. This warns the disciple to keep his own counsel and not offer wisdom and knowledge, the right hand, to such as are incapable of appreciating these. The hand here represents truth, which raises to those who have fallen because of ignorance. But as many of the unregenerate do not desire wisdom, don't cut off that hand that is extended in kindness to them. Time alone can effect the redemption of the ignorant masses. Time alone. Number 10, When rising from the bedclothes, roll them together and obliterate the impression of the body. Pythagoras here directs his disciples who have awakened from the sleep of ignorance into the waking state of intelligence to eliminate from their recollection all memory of their former spiritual darkness. For a wise man in passing leaves no form behind him, which others less intelligent, seeing it, shall use it as a mold for the casting of idols. Hey, look, if that all went by you too fast, pause the video, go back and listen to it again, or change the playback speed to a slower one. The most famous of the Pythagorean fragments are the Golden Verses, ascribed to Pythagoras himself, but concerning whose authorship there is an element of doubt. These verses open by counseling the reader to love God, venerate the great heroes, and respect the demons and the elemental inhabitants. Then they urge man to think carefully and industriously concerning his daily life, and to prefer the treasures of the mind and the soul over accumulations of earthly goods. The verses also promise man that if he will rise above his lower material nature and cultivate self-control, ooh! One of the components of the main thrust of this channel. Cultivate self-control. You will ultimately be acceptable in the sight of the gods, be reunited with them, and to partake of their immortality. Now, what about Pythagoras and mathematics? Come on! This is sacred geometry, man! I'm not going to say much about it. because it's too involved very rapidly. And how am I going to, verbalize symbols, numbers, so forth, all right? I'm not going to, all right? It'd just be confusing. You want to look into that? Do it yourself. Hey, you can get this book. There's a lot of it here. You can find this online just like I did. It's easy. The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. Hall. Method of securing the numerical power of words. Now, how about that? You want to get sigil magic going? You want to be able to do shit with your words? You want to get them lined up with numerological, numerology. You want to put the numerology. You want to get familiar with Pythagoras' numerology thing, right? And then gear up your words so you can, when you go to the bar and you buy a girl a drink or something, you can say the magic stuff. You can do the verbal formula thing according to ancient tradition, mystery teachings. My God, to get laid. Yeah, you want to go ahead? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. The first step in obtaining the numerical value of a word is to resolve that word back into its original tongue. Ha 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 ha! Only words of Greek or Hebrew derivation can be successfully analyzed by this method. And all words must be spelled in their most ancient and complete forms. So give it up! Or are you a Pythagorean? Old Testament's words and names, therefore, must be translated back into the early Hebrew characters, and New Testament words into the early Greek, which, by the way, the New Testament wasn't just Greek. It was a form of Greek that was pretty much just unique to the New Testament. The Pythagoreans declared arithmetic to be the mother of the mathematical sciences. Arithmetic. Addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. This is proved by the fact that geometry, music, and astronomy are dependent upon arithmetic. But it is not dependent upon them. You remember? Geometry, music, astronomy. You couldn't even get into a school without having a lot, significant familiarity with those three sciences, as they were called. Arithmetic. They are dependent on arithmetic. In the same manner, music depends upon arithmetic. And the Pythagoreans also demonstrated arithmetic to be prior to astronomy. No. Arithmetic is prior to all. It is primary. It is fundamental. Now, if you're one of those people interested in Pythagoras, his ideology, the body of it, that can be stated in everyday language. There it is, guys! Did you like the video? Are you still awake? Did I keep you awake somehow? I hope. Did you like the video? Thumb up. Didn't you like it? Thumb up. Did you hate it? Thumb up. Am I ugly? Thumb up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, guys. All right? Activate the notification bell feature. Share the joy of the channel with others. You heard it right here on Tharanki Ramatraka. I'm Turk Strongman. Be well.